Ladies and gentlemen, damas y caballeros, it's Leave It in the Ring.
Welcome back to another edition of Leave It in the Ring. I'm your host, Dave Duenas, with my co-host, Gabriel Montoya, and the man behind the switchboard, Mr. David Chen. I hope everybody's having a great set of sunny days. It's starting to get warm over here in Northern California. I'm pretty sure Southern California is hot. When I was up there this past weekend, it was pretty hot. So we all have heard about Lamont Peterson testing positive. The Vada Testing, he was going under voluntarily. Came back in March that he was sample A, he was tested positive, sample B. My co-host is on another radio show right now. He's doing an interview. He's going to be coming on, and and if you've been following Leave It in the Ring for the past couple of years, then you would know that we've been following, and my partner in crime, that Mr. Dark Cloud, has been in tune with this. I mean, he's been in depth with the Vada Testing and the TE ratio with Victor Conte and Dr. Margaret Goodman. So if anybody can answer questions or really know the inside of what's really going on with the Vada Testing and Lamont Peterson, Gabriel Montoya is going to be the man to speak to. So in a way, my co-host today is going to be interviewed just a bit so that fans out there and listeners can have a much more understanding of what's going on with the Vada Testing and Lamont Peterson. Now, a couple of things that I've said out there where some folks have gotten upset. I've gotten emails, and I think some people are misunderstanding what I'm trying to say is that when I mention, right now is the moment we all need to assume suspicion that fighters out there are not clean until they start doing the proper testing, which would be Vada, because Vada does, test for the TE ratio and PEDs that WADA and Olympic style are not doing. But we all know that all boxing fans or non-boxing fans always have a way of kind of taking our sport to a dark place by saying, well, that's why I don't watch boxing, because look at steroids and look at this and look at that, when they don't have all the facts there. So what I'm saying is that we'll give them the proper testing so that you could take people out of that equation. You could take them out of that suspicion, that suspect lineup. Take them out of it by giving the proper testing. That is the voluntary proper testing to try to find out whether or not. Let's be honest here, guys. How many of you were back there surprised when you found out Lamont Peterson tested positive? How many? I was kind of thrown back by that. But at the same time, Vada sent out a statement because Golden Boy was throwing them under the bus a little bit, saying that they were in the dark, and why were they not told, specifically when Peterson was diagnosed as a positive testing. Vada threw out automatically there was contracts that needed to be signed for a third party.
But I don't think people see the big picture of why this is significant. If you've read my articles, I've said it repeatedly because I think it takes repeated sayings for people to understand some of these terms. In particular, what CIR testing is and why it's significant, how Peterson got caught. I mean, he had a TE ratio, and our fans know what that is. It's the testosterone to epitestosterone of 3.77 to 1, which means he was well under the legal limit. He was fine.
Right.
It wasn't even so blown out that you're like, okay, like Overeem, it's like 20 to 1. You're like, what is this guy on? What is he doing?
Because the legal limit is 4, right? What was the legal limit again?
4, except for New York and Nevada, who insist that 6 to 1 is just fine. If it was fine in 2006, why isn't it fine now? Because the rest of the world has actually moved on and then, is living in the present. But he was under the legal limit for 3.77, meaning if he would have been tested by USADA, if he'd have been tested by Mayweather Testing, sponsored by USADA, or inspired by USADA, he would not have been caught because he didn't give a red flag, and so they wouldn't have used CIR testing to kind of find out what was in his system. They don't use it the way Vada uses it. Vada uses it as a screen test. Right off the bat, they're looking for drugs. They're not looking for red flags, and that's the difference. Besides the fact that they cost $80,000 less than USADA per fight, which no one can explain because no one will call me back at USADA. So, I mean, this isn't a commercial for Vada, but in a sense it is. It's a commercial for anti-doping. It changed the game today, this week, by catching him with the very first test right off the gate. It showed that this theory, which has been around for 12 years, people have said, like, CIR is a screen test. That is the way to catch people. Don't pussyfoot around with red flags. Let's go after the drugs. And boom, we caught somebody right off the bat, And I think that, and I say we, I mean the anti-doping community.
Right.
And I think that's significant. I've told that Dick Pound, who I'll have an interview with later on this evening, who's the founding chairman of WADA, he's preparing all this data about Peterson and what happened and why to go before the World Anti-Doping Association, I think in 2 weeks. And he's going to present the case that this might actually change the way the London Games are tested. So this is, I mean, it's a banner moment. The problem, I got to tell you, Dave, I don't think that Lamont Peterson was taking this for a competitive edge. I think he legitimately has a problem in looking at the medical stuff. I don't know if you had a chance to see it, but people are talking about hypergonadism, which is what he has. Low T is the easy term for it, low testosterone. Looking at the stuff and hanging out with him. I hung out with him 45 minutes after he got his test that very first day. And it's a story, actually, that nobody else has. And I have it in my story. I'll tell it now. When he got there, that it was at the Grammy Museum in Los Angeles. This is March 19th for the final press conference announcing Con Peterson 2.
Right.
Peterson got that first. He was so dehydrated he couldn't give blood or urine. This is, to me, a guy that just really doesn't understand his body quite yet. You'd be amazed hanging out in gyms. All these guys are so old school. They're overtrained and they're dehydrated and they just don't know. Berto was another perfect example. He's anemic. Didn't even know. And dehydrated. Chaz Witherspoon was the same way. So he shows up and he can't give anything. And Vada was like, well, I guess we're going to have to get you the next time. We're going to count it. I don't know if they were going to count it as this or what. But Peterson said, hey, can I do the press conference? I'll eat something. I'll hydrate. I want to give you this sample. I want to do this. I've signed up for this. I asked for this. I want to do this. Does that strike you as a guy that's trying to hide something? Or would a guy, if somebody said, hey, we'll just do it next time, kind of go, cool, let me cycle off and finish that and no one will ever catch me?
No.
He didn't have it in his
absolutely not.
The rest of camp. So
I know Hunter too was throwing out there that they asked for this test. They were asking for the test. But go ahead, go on. Yeah, they were asking for the test. He was the one that wanted. That's the sad irony of this. Is he got caught by something he asked for, and that, to me, I haven't talked to Lamont yet. I haven't been allowed to yet. I mean, he's been kind of sequestered, I think. I think he gave one interview today, from what I understand, but I've been sleeping. But I get the sense he's just devastated, and I don't think it's because he got caught. I mean, I spent a long time talking with Barry Hunter, Dr. John Thompson, who I'm still kind of figuring out, and Andre Johnson, their publicist last night, just talking and taking down stuff for the article. I got exasperation. I got confusion. We don't understand. I didn't get defensiveness. I didn't get, this is bad. I mean, I got the sense that these guys don't, and I got this across the board from Richard Schaefer at Golden Boy, who I had to educate on what CIR testing was and why this moment was significant, rather than litigate and sue Vada for not telling them at the last minute, which, folks, 3 weeks waiting after the B sample and waiting to the last second, this is standard. When Marianne Jones tested her B sample, it took 4 weeks. For them to do it in 3, it's actually kind of impressive. And for Keith Kaiser and Richard Schaefer to spin it kind of shows either a hidden motive or a lack of understanding of the process. And after talking to Richard about the types of tests that are done and how Peterson was caught and why it's significant, I get the feeling that these guys just were happy to be the good guys. Hey, we're doing extra testing. Them throwing them under the bus for a moment, saying, why weren't we told this in April? And Vada Testing throwing out the reason why is because they weren't. There was no privilege to it. There was no contract signed for a third party to be aware of it yet, and had sent them the contract and was never returned. And Golden Boy basically were going to handle it in their terms and their protocol, and it wasn't the protocol of Vada Testing. So that there clears them tremendously of what Golden Boy was accusing them, and Kaiser was. And
there's an email trail. It exists. I'm sorry, but Golden Boy, he was getting more and more upset. And the thing that was like, if they think they're going to get away with this, and I'm thinking, why are you not jumping on the bandwagon here and saying, you know what? I'm the only promoter, and this is the truth. Besides, I mean, if you count Mayweather Promotions, which I don't because they don't have a license, Golden Boy is the only promoter out there. This is their 6th fight with extra testing. 3 with USADA, 3 with Vada. That's what kind of surprised me, is that Richard Schaefer seemed surprised that we finally caught somebody, and it happened before a fight, and it was going to jeopardize the fight actually happening. It was like, this is your 6th time. Why isn't there a golden parachute here? Why isn't there some sort of contingency plan? Instead, everybody seems angry that they actually caught somebody, and that they missed the fact that this guy had testosterone in his system that wasn't his when they fought in December. And because of Vada testing, he got caught, and you didn't have to go through that again. And whether or not he gave a competitive edge, there's a lot of science there. He was very, very low in what they call free testosterone. This just got him back to normal, and it was only done 4 weeks out in a slow-release pellet. And they were saying, like, nobody ever, that's what Dr. Thompson was saying, it's like nobody ever says after 4 weeks, I feel great, I feel like Superman. It usually is like the 2nd and 3rd month that it really starts to kick in, and you start to feel better, like your levels get normal and your system kind of balances out. It understands now it's got enough testosterone, everything kind of starts to work. Peterson wasn't at that stage when he fought Khan. So I don't understand why Golden Boy wouldn't just take the credit and say, you know what, Bob Arum, everybody else, we are leading the way. We actually did finally live up to the promise of Oscar De La Hoya, and we helped clean up the sport.
They're being emotional and petty because of the fact they don't understand, like most fans out there, what this voluntary testing is all about. They don't have a clue. By reaction of them not signing the contract or not reading through the contract that was sent to them originally when Peterson agreed on taking this testing from Vada, that tells me a whole lot that they didn't read through it, they didn't understand it, and they kind of shrugged it off, and they basically threw it in the back burner, and they were going on their usual day of trying to get things set together, which is organize an event that was upcoming, rather than look at all the little details that are behind it, and they did a mistake there, and guess what?
I think really, there's a big key here. You have to go back to this Vada statement, and you go, well, why did anybody want to sign this? It was kind of funny when Richard read me the statement. A few guys put the verbiage of the contract in there, and he was all upset. This thing, but then you find out there's like at least 5 contract drafts. Well, which version of the contract are you reading me? The one that you like the best, or because it's not one that you signed. When you're in the middle of a negotiation and everybody's going back and forth, and there's 5 different drafts, and you got all these parties, and nobody's agreed and nobody's signed, I don't think that's going to hold up in court. I really don't. I think you got to go the other way and just say, okay, and I told this to Richard. I said, look, I know it sucks. You guys lost money. Everybody was built up. Khan loses out on a payday. Everybody in the undercard loses out on a payday. Although, do you really think Top Rank would cancel the whole thing, or would they be doing the whole card? I think they would redo
the whole card. Yeah.
Yeah. You might lose Khan, but maybe you bump something else up, or you throw something on there.
I mean, they've done that.
To do it.
When Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. all of a sudden came down with the flu, when he was supposed to fight Wallach, they end up bumping the Ante Leon and Soto fight, and it became to be a great headline, a great fight.
Yep.
So I think Top Rank. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Top Rank would have made lemon juice out of the lemons they were given. And I think that's what Golden Boy, they failed at too. They dropped the ball on that one too.
It's been. I don't think people really realize how significant this all is. I mean, this is.
I don't think so too. But let's move a little forward.
Sure.
Gabe, have you found out anything about the hearing? I mean, what is being said, and what are the thoughts of the Nevada State Commission? Obviously, they have the last ruling of whether or not what's going to happen with Lamont Peterson's career. What is being talked about, and what is the rumor of what he's going to end up facing?
Where I was left last night was with Barry. I said, what do you guys plan on doing? And they said, next Tuesday we should know. He wasn't sure if they were having a hearing or a meeting or what, but next Tuesday was a date they had set to kind of move forward in what they were doing. I think they're still gathering a lot of information, building his medical case. So, if I was to give them advice, which is not my place, I'd hire a better anti-doping lawyer. I'm not saying Jeffrey did a bad job, but somebody screwed up here. Somebody didn't prepare Lamont. Somebody didn't find out everything there was to know about him and put it on that form. All he needed